Hello viewers, you're watching Afghanistan Report and I'm your host Swati Kundra. The main stories are: civilian casualties in Afghanistan hit record high. Outgoing US commander says mission in Afghanistan not changing. And Afghan puppet artists enthrall audiences in India. A United Nations report says civilian casualties in Afghanistan has risen to record levels for the 7th year in a row in 2015. The violence has spread across the country after the withdrawal of most international troops. We have a report.
A UN report released February 14 says civilian casualties in Afghanistan rose to record levels for the 7th year in a row in 2015. At least 3,545 non-combatants died and another 7,457 were injured by fighting last year, in a 4% increase over 2014.
We recognize that all the parties to the conflict have agreed on the need to avoid civilian casualties. But what we need to see are those same parties going beyond public statements to change the way they conduct the war. What I want to do is next year, when we release our report for 2016, to be able to report to you that there has been a significant drop in civilian casualties.
Fighting between Western-backed government forces and insurgent groups meant more non-combatants were killed in the crossfire. Residents in the north and south were particularly hard hit as Afghan security forces struggled to hold off resurgent Taliban offensives in Kunduz and Helmand provinces.
Ground engagements killed and injured the most civilians, followed by IEDs, complex and suicide attacks. These tactics, combined with targeted killings, accounted for 90% of total civilian casualties. The overall 4% increase resulted mainly from a rise in suicide and complex attacks carried out in Kabul city, as well as the Taliban offensive in Kunduz last year. In most parts of Afghanistan in 2015, civilian casualties decreased.
The UN has documented nearly 59,000 deaths and injuries since it began systematically recording civilian casualties in Afghanistan in 2009.
Afghan forces are continuing their fight against extremists in the country's eastern Nangarhar province bordering Pakistan. In recent airstrikes, as many as 40 militants had been killed in the area.
Around 4,000 extremists have occupied villages and highways in Achin district bordering Pakistan, causing many problems for civilians. The Afghan government officially confirmed the presence of the militants in the province when they carried out an attack in the provincial capital of Jalalabad in April 2015. In August 2015, the extremists defeated the Taliban in Achin and captured some villages. They declared they would build the villages as their stronghold and established the so-called Vilayat Khorasan or Khorasan province.
اول اینا که دولت کدام عملی انجام ندادن با طالبان از این ساحه کاملا راندن و یک مدت 2 ماه یا 3 ماه بعد بازی اولین حمله از اینا البته هدف شوم از اینا ای بود که در ضربه اول ولسوالی چین سقوط بده. هدف بیخی استراتژیکشان بر اساس راپورهای ما که اینا بتونن شورای ترخم جلال آباد برای ترافیک بسته کنن، یعنی یک مشکل جدی را به دولت جمهوری اسلامی افغانستان.
In order to stop the extremist group from spreading its tentacles, Afghanistan Army has worked with local militia and border police to build several defenses.
حضور کې موږ دار ته یو چې ټول خلک یې سر کړي د کورونا وځي ټول خلک یې حلال کړو موږ د دولت نه دا هیله چې دیش د موږ ولس نه ورکه.
Despite the Afghanistan Army's temporary victory, much needs to be done to rid the province of the militants.
The outgoing US commander of international forces in Afghanistan says US troops will not return to an active role fighting the Taliban despite the likelihood of another difficult year of combat. Here's a report.
US Special Forces units assisting Afghan forces have been involved in firefights in the volatile Helmand province. Another 500 US soldiers holding on to key district centers such as Sangin and Marja will advise and assist the Afghan military.
They're not actively going out to fight, but if they get attacked, they have to be able to provide force protection to themselves. If they get attacked, and somebody is firing on them, and we have the capability to protect the special forces, both from a U.S. perspective and the Afghan security forces, I'm going to do that. And that's where you see Apache helicopters, bombs, drones, those kind of things. But we're not changed. The mission hasn't changed, all right?
In addition to training Afghan forces, the US military has stepped up operations against Islamic State fighters, mainly in the east of the country. With troop numbers set to fall, questions have been raised about what changes they will have to make to carry out both missions. The Afghan military are trying to improve in areas including leadership and recruitment, reducing high rates of desertion and getting more soldiers off ineffective checkpoints and taking on the Taliban. Around 9,800 US troops remain in Afghanistan. Afghan forces, which took over combat operations when NATO's fighting mission ended in 2014, have struggled and are expected to need international assistance for years to come.
The Indian Institute of Foreign Trade is offering specialized training to experts from 16 countries, including Afghanistan. The main aim of this workshop is to enhance trading skills in these countries.
The 10-day specialized training program is organized by Center for WTO Studies in collaboration with Indian Technical and Economic Cooperation Program and the Ministry of External Affairs. It highlights issues related to agriculture, trade, and services to intellectual property rights and regional trade agreements. Baraimal Jarian, a trade expert from Afghanistan, said such training program will help to boost investment, trade production, and economic sales of this country.
One of the main objectives acceding to WTO is to giving the country a credibility in order to attract investment in the country, and furthermore to create job opportunities, to open our markets, as well as to accede the international markets on a non-discriminatory basis.
India has been offering training on capacity building programs to rebuild the war-torn country.
Regarding the capacity building programs, Afghanistan officials have been participated in so many capacity building programs here in India in regard to WTO issues. And of course, it has been proved very beneficial and advantageous for them. We do need the technical capacity not only to negotiate the issues with the WTO members, but also to be able to implement all the commitments we made for the WTO member countries, as well as the rules and regulations of WTO and agreements in WTO. So I feel it's very much important to increase the capacity of staff.
Afghanistan became the member of World Trade Organization in December last year during the Nairobi conference. WTO membership will not only provide access to cheap international markets and commodities, but will also give rise to both export and competition.
A puppet theatre group from Afghanistan recently performed at the 14th Ishara Puppet Festival on the outskirts of New Delhi. Let's meet the puppet artist from Afghanistan.
The 14th Ishara Puppet Festival brought together puppet theatre artists from 21 countries, including Afghanistan. Abdul Haq Hakju, artist and director of Parwana Puppet Theatre Group from Afghanistan, was a hit among children through his spellbound performance. Haq has been participating in the event for the last 5 years, and each year his group has been receiving overwhelming response from Indian audience. Director of Fine Arts in Kabul University, Haq believes that art is the best form to connect with people.
शो बनाते पपेट से या थिएटर से जो उसमें मेन मैसेज पीस है और ऐसे शो है कि चाइल्ड राइट सिखाते हैं बच्चों के लिए, और बहुत सारे शो है एजुकेशन के बारे में कि क्यों एजुकेशन बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है, सभी को नॉलेज होना चाहिए। ऐसे शो हम करते, कभी कभी नॉर्मल लाइफ के लिए हम शो बनाते हैं, कैसे बात करना है, कैसे लोगों से उठना बैठना कैसा होता है। तो इस शो के साथ हम चाहते हैं कि लोगों को सिखाए, ख़ास के लिए बच्चों के लिए, क्योंकि वो नया जनरेशन है जो उसको आना है और रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी लेना है कंट्री का।
With the United Nations for creating awareness on various human rights issues.
मैं तो सोचता हूँ कि लोग पसंद करते हैं, क्योंकि हम जो शो बनाते हैं अपने कल्चर के लिए, इसलिए कि इंडियन और अफ़गान का बहुत कल्चर बहुत मिलता जुलता है, और जो हम अपनी कल्चर के लिए बनाते हैं वो हिंदी लोग भी उसको पसंद करते हैं।
Ishara Puppet Festival is most popular festival of puppetry in India, bringing artists and performers from all corners of the world to celebrate storytelling through puppetry arts.
With that, we have come to the end of this week's episode of Afghanistan Report. I'm Swati Kundra taking your leave. We'll be back next week with more news and views from Afghanistan. Goodbye and Khuda Hafiz.